Believe me when I tell you that there is a lot of excitement in chapter 28. It starts off with it being Halloween and the night of the play. Jim is walking Scout to the school. It's unusually warm and dark, and they're chatting and giving each other a crap about Boo Radley coming out, trying to scare one another. Scout asks Jim how he can see where they're going. He says he sees the auditorium lights on in the school in the distance, and Scout is in her ham costume, and Jim guides her through the dark. Scout told Jim that they should have brought a flashlight, and then someone jumps out and scares them. It's Scout's classmate, Cecil Jacobs, the one who told the Hitler current event. Then Scout asks him where his costume is, and he says it's behind the stage. She wishes she would have done the same. Then Cecil walked with them the rest of the way to the school, and they get out their money for the Halloween penny carnival, and Scout and Cecil visit all of the booths and have a great time. Then they get ready for the play. Scout is waiting backstage or side stage for what seems like forever, and begins to think and daydream and falls asleep waiting for her cue. Then she wakes up to her teacher yelling, "Pork!" and the band playing, and she goes out to try to catch up with the others for the grand finale. Once the play finishes, Scout is embarrassed and upset, but Jim said people laughed and thought it was really funny, and it turned out to be a hit, which made her feel a lot better. They began crossing the dark schoolyard, and Scout had to leave her ham costume on because she forgot her shoes and had to carry her other clothes didn't have time to change. So she could barely see, and Jim guided her and told her where to go next. Then Jim told Scout to hush and pinched her to be quiet all of a sudden. Scout asked why, and he said, "Just stop a minute." And it goes on like this for a few minutes because he thinks he hears something or someone. Then they try to convince each other it's probably Cecil again. So they are shouting out and calling Cecil's name. And finally, Scout calls Cecil a big wet hen. And then he doesn't respond. And this continues on, and they hear some shuffling feet. Every time they start to walk, they hear the shuffling. And when they stop, they stop. Then Scout asks Jim if she should be scared. And he yells at her to run as fast as she can. But it's too late, and she can't see without him, and someone crushes her costume and brings her to the ground. She gets up, and Jim was pulled backwards to the ground, and there was a dull crunching sound, and she hears Jim scream. Scout runs to him, or tries to, and reaches for him, but feels a flabby male stomach, and the owner says, "Oof," and tries to grab her, and she can't move. Then she gets free, and she thought it was because of Jim, but it got silent, except for the man's heavy breathing. The man begins moving again, and he groaned and pulled something heavy across the ground. Scout realized then that there were more than 3 people under the tree. There was probably 4. She called for Jim, but there was no answer. She reached around and felt stubble and smelled stale whiskey. She realized it was not Jim. Then she started walking back toward the house, or where she thought it was. In the distance, she saw a man walking and was carrying a heavy load. She realized that it was Jim. He was carrying Jim to their front yard. Atticus came out and yelled, "Where is Scout?" And then Aunt Alexandra spots her and says, "Here she is." As Scout walks in, Aunt Alexandra called for Dr. Reynolds to come quick, and then Atticus called for Sheriff Heck Tate. Scout kept asking if Jim was dead, and he said no. Everyone said no. Aunt Alexandra helped Scout out of her ham costume, and Scout asks her auntie if Jim's dead. She tells her, "No, darling," and then Dr. Reynolds shows up, and Scout asks him if Jim's dead, too, and he says, "Far from it." He tells her that they have to x-ray his arm tomorrow, and he needs to rest, but he'll be good as new in no time. Then Scout asks to go see Jim, and Heck says he'll go with her. Atticus is already in there, and she goes in, and Atticus is with him, and she calls Jim's name, but Atticus says he's asleep. She understands and complies with her father. Atticus asks Heck if he found anything, and Heck says he can't believe that anyone could be so low to do this. Mr. Tate tells Atticus to sit down. He found a dress and parts of Scout's costume. Then he looks around and pauses, and Atticus asks him, "What is it?" He responds that Bob Ewell is lying on the ground under the tree with a kitchen knife in his ribs, dead.